The book of Deuteronomy is the fifth book of the Torah and the Old Testament. It is structured as a series of speeches delivered by Moses to the Israelites before they enter the Promised Land. The book serves as a restatement and renewal of the covenant between God and Israel, revisiting laws and events from earlier in their journey. Here's a detailed summary of its structure and key themes. Chapters 1-4, Moses' first address. Historical overview. Recap of Israel's journey. Moses begins by recounting the major events of Israel's journey from Mount Sinai, Horeb, to their current location, just east of the Jordan River. This includes the appointment of leaders, the refusal to enter the Promised Land after the report of the spies, and the subsequent wilderness wandering. Rebellion and consequences. Moses emphasizes how Israel's disobedience and lack of faith led to the 40-year delay in reaching Canaan. The older generation was condemned to die in the wilderness, except for Caleb and Joshua, who remained faithful. Conquests in Transjordan. The Israelites' victories over Sihon, king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan, are highlighted as evidence of God's power and faithfulness. Call to obedience. Moses urges the people to obey God's laws and remember the lessons of their past failures. They are reminded of God's unique relationship with Israel and warned against idolatry. Chapters 5-11, Moses' second address, the covenant and the law, repetition of the Ten Commandments. Moses repeats the Ten Commandments given at Mount Sinai, emphasizing their centrality to the covenant with God. Shema and the call to love God. The famous Shema, Deuteronomy 6:4-5, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, is introduced. Moses calls the people to love God with all their heart, soul, and strength. This foundational commandment is followed by instructions to diligently teach God's laws to future generations. Warnings against disobedience. Moses reminds Israel that their success in the Promised Land depends on their obedience. They are warned about the dangers of idolatry and reminded that their prosperity is not due to their righteousness, but to God's promises to their ancestors. Reaffirmation of God's blessings and curses. Moses explains that obedience will bring blessings, while disobedience will bring curses, including exile from the land. The people's relationship with God is to be one of exclusive loyalty and love. Chapters 12-26, Detailed laws. Centralization of worship. The Israelites are instructed to destroy all pagan places of worship in Canaan and to offer sacrifices only at the place where God chooses, later revealed to be Jerusalem. This centralization is meant to prevent the influence of idolatry. Prohibitions on pagan practices. The Israelites are forbidden from engaging in various Canaanite religious practices, including child sacrifice, divination, and sorcery. Dietary laws. Restrictions on clean and unclean foods are reiterated. The Israelites are also reminded of the importance of tithing and caring for the poor, the Levites, and foreigners. Justice and governance. Moses provides laws for the appointment of judges, priests, and kings. Kings, in particular, are warned not to amass excessive wealth or foreign alliances and are instructed to study God's law. Prophets and false prophets. The role of prophets is affirmed, but the people are warned to be wary of false prophets who lead them away from worshiping the true God. Criminal and civil laws. Various laws concerning murder, warfare, marriage, and property rights are given. For example, cities of refuge are established for those who commit unintentional manslaughter. Social justice and charity. Laws are provided to ensure the protection of vulnerable groups such as orphans, widows, and foreigners. Israelites are also instructed to forgive debts every 7 years and to free Hebrew slaves. Festivals and offerings. Moses outlines the major religious festivals, such as Passover, the Feast of Weeks, Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles, which are to be observed annually. Chapters 27-28, Blessings and Curses. Covenant ceremony at Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. The Israelites are commanded to hold a covenant renewal ceremony upon entering the Promised Land. Blessings for obedience and curses for disobedience are to be recited on Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, respectively. Blessings for obedience. If the Israelites remain faithful to God's commands, they will be blessed with prosperity, victory over their enemies, and fertility in the land. Curses for disobedience. If they disobey, they will suffer curses, including famine, disease, defeat in battle, and eventual exile from the land. These warnings are a sobering reminder of the consequences of breaking the covenant. Chapters 29 to 30, Moses' third address. Covenant renewal. Moses renews the covenant between God and Israel, emphasizing that it applies not only to the current generation, but to future generations as well. He stresses that the covenant is a matter of life and death. Obedience will bring life and prosperity, while disobedience will bring destruction. Call to choose life. Moses exhorts the people to choose life by loving and obeying God. He reassures them that even if they are exiled, God will gather them back if they repent and return to Him. Chapters 31 to 34, Conclusion and Moses' final acts. Joshua appointed as successor. Moses, knowing he will not enter the promised land, formally appoints Joshua as his successor and encourages him to be strong and courageous. Moses gives the law to the Levites and commands them to read it to the people every 7 years during the Feast of Tabernacles. Song of Moses. Moses composes a song that serves as a witness against Israel in case they later forsake the covenant. The song recounts God's faithfulness and Israel's future rebellion, warning them of the consequences of turning away from God. Blessing of the tribes. Before his death, Moses blesses each of the 12 tribes of Israel, similar to the blessings given by Jacob in Genesis. Death of Moses. Moses ascends Mount Nebo, where God shows him the promised land from a distance. He dies there, and the Lord himself buries him in an unknown location. Moses is described as the greatest prophet in Israel, having spoken with God face to face. Themes in the book of Deuteronomy. 1. Covenant loyalty. Deuteronomy emphasizes the importance of Israel's loyalty to God and their covenant relationship. Obedience brings blessings, while disobedience brings curses. 2. The Shema and love of God. The command to love God with all one's heart, soul, and strength is central to Deuteronomy, calling Israel to a total commitment to God. 3. Justice and righteousness. Many laws focus on social justice, especially regarding the care for the poor, the orphaned, and the foreigner. Fairness and equity are highly emphasized in governance and society. 4. Remembrance and instruction. The book frequently stresses the importance of remembering God's past deeds and teaching future generations about his laws. 5. Centralization of worship. The requirement to worship in a central location underscores the importance of unity and purity in Israel's religious practices, preventing the spread of idolatry. In summary, Deuteronomy is both a legal code and a theological discourse, reminding Israel of their unique relationship with God and urging them to remain faithful as they prepare to enter the Promised Land. It lays out the conditions for Israel's success and failure, with a focus on covenant obedience, love for God, and justice.